Hi, welcome to Forbes Let's Talk, the insurance edition. My name's Nicola Dawn and I'm one of the insurance partners at Forbes, and each podcast I'll be taking you on a journey with one of our guests through their work, life and career. Hi, and welcome to the Forbes Let's Talk insurance edition of the podcast, and today very pleased to welcome David Mayer, a partner in our complex claims team, also specialising in sports law.
That's all right, thank you for having me. The Oprah of the insurance world. I'm honoured to be here.
If I'm Oprah, who are you? Jerry Springer?
I don't know, I'm not sure. Somebody very famous, sure.
Very famous,
surely,
very
obviously.
dapper in that suit as well.
Must be.
Because we have to say it's also headshot day for
It is
you as
headshot
well
day,
today. So if you're watching the video, he's got a very dapper suit on today.
What you're talking about, I always dress like this.
You do.
I slept in this last night and I woke up and just came straight to work.
Freshly pressed.
And try and make out I wear trackies most of the time, that's rude.
Well, thanks very much for coming on, David. It's a real pleasure to have you on. Thank you. So we start off basically by asking you a bit about your background and how you found your way into law. And I know you did describe to me earlier that you were from Forbes from birth, I think.
Pretty much from birth, yeah. Born into the firm when it was in its infancy. Yeah, no, I suppose I started a law degree at Liverpool University. I only did that because my brother is a lawyer as well, and I was pretty stuck for something that I wanted to do, for any kind of inspiration. So I thought I would give it a go and see what happens. So I went to university, did that. Thought most of it, to be honest, was pretty boring.
I also did law at Liverpool Uni.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
You?
We probably may have crossed over actually, but yeah, I was the same. I found bits of it a little bit
exciting
stuff.
People getting murdered, armed robberies, but then people getting sued and all that kind of stuff. It was like real life stuff.
I suppose that's why we've got into sort of going off to tort and negligence and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'm definitely not a transactional lawyer or a contract lawyer or any of those kind of different things. So the land law, equity and trust just did not excite me whatsoever. So I kind of got the impression when I was at uni that probably maybe the law wasn't for me, or maybe I didn't know what I wanted to do in it really to begin with. So I went travelling for a year after university. And then I got back and I needed a job like everybody else, so I saw a job available at Forbes in the cost department, being a cost draftsman.
Okay.
I didn't know what that was. I had no idea whatsoever. Turns out I didn't need to know what it was to do the job because nobody else wanted it, so that's absolutely fine. So I applied for that, got that, and I worked in our cost department doing civil matrimonial costings for a couple of years. And that was when I first kind of got to see how cases actually worked, because I was going through files and seeing how they were run kind of from start to finish. I was dealing with personal injury work, I was dealing with matrimonial stuff, and I could actually see what law in practice was.
And it's a bit more of a connect rather than the theory of it. Yeah.
I'm one of those people who, when you move into a house, I can't visualise what the room's going to look like when you get it, when you put the paint up and you know. But if I actually see a finished version of it, then I can kind of track backwards with that. So that's what I was like with this. And it looked interesting, so I then decided to do my legal practice course, and I did that while still working at Forbes. Qualified at Forbes, and I've stayed at Forbes ever since. And here I am now, all these years, 21 years later.
Good shift, and you only look actually 21 years of age in total,
I'm
so you're doing really
27,
well.
so I was an early starter, to be honest. Yeah.
You're doing really well. So did you go, when you qualified, go into insurance straight away? Because we've obviously got a large insurance department. Yeah,
we have. Yeah, no, I went into personal injury when I qualified, because, as I say, that was where my experience was really at the time. Yeah. And I'd worked very closely with one of our ex-partners, Derek Baker, who was kind of a bit of a mentor, fantastic mentor and brilliant lawyer, and he kind of, I suppose, inspired me in that kind of area. So I fell quite naturally into that, and I did that. So I was a claimant PI lawyer until, what was it, 2015 maybe, or thereabouts. And then I transferred into the defendant insurance department. There'd been a lot of changes in personal injury, as you know, over the years, and our insurance department's always been big, but it had expanded more and more and become more and more specialised. And they needed people over on that side, so I kind of made the shift to what I thought was the dark side at that particular time. Now I know it's the side of righteousness and justice, but it depends wherever you work for long enough, you you bat for that team, don't
exactly, and everybody does a job, and everybody's there to provide, you know, a service to their clients. So it all works out in the end, and everybody needs each other on both sides, don't they, as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The point of being a lawyer is to, in litigation, is to find someone's corner, isn't it?
Yeah,
is to be there
to do the best for your client that you're instructed by, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and in the end, both sides are trying to make sure justice is done in some kind of way. So most of the time that works, not always.
Yeah, good stuff. And you've done a lot of work for the big construction companies in the past.
Yeah, we represent a lot of big construction companies. So construction's has traditionally been quite a big part of my practice. I'm on part of the construction group, the Forbes construction group, which spans over all our departments and the specialists from each department on there, and we meet regularly and discuss all things construction, etc. So the construction team provides kind of like a full service to our construction clients, so my part of that is dealing with usually I'm in the complex claims team, so it's usually kind of higher value or more complex personal injury matters, which obviously can be very serious in construction claims because it's still accounts for one of the biggest proportions of fatalities in the HSE statistics every year. So it can still be very dangerous. So a lot of my cases evolve around those, and then as it's expanded, I've also done equal amounts of sports as well. So it's kind of I'm split between them, really.
I know, because I do a lot with the construction companies as well from the disease point of view.
Yeah, of course you do.
It's interesting, and then the buyouts and half the time trying to find out who the right insurer is for the right project and all of that sort of stuff.
And when you're going back historically, I've not done anywhere near as much disease as you, but I've done some, and they trying to find going back to the 70s and 80s and 90s, and I find all that cover it can be as much work as actually just running the case.
Exactly, No, but I like all the detective work, the corporate stuff, But the sports law sounds interesting as well. As a sport fan, what sort of things do you get involved with that?
All sorts, really, because we service kind of sports and leisure clients, so it could be things like we represent national governing bodies, so it could be organisations that run a particular sport in England or the UK. It can be leagues, football leagues, it can be individual clubs, rugby clubs and tennis clubs and all sorts of things. But then it's also the leisure side of it is piers, theme parks and leisure sites and kind of all sorts of things. So it can covers a huge spread of
quite diverse. Really diverse.
Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with things from fatalities in leisure complexes right down to cricket balls hitting car windows in a local cricket club. So it spans a full kind of spectrum of which keeps you on your toes and makes it really interesting, because then obviously every new case is something completely different, and I quite enjoy having to get to grips with something you didn't know about before. Like 1 minute you could be dealing with something I know a bit about, like rugby or martial arts or something. That's kind of my field, but then next time I could be dealing with tobogganing, and I'm researching how you toboggan properly and what the rules are about
what you should be doing safely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and I find all that quite interesting. I like sports and leisure generally, so it's interesting dealing with those cases, and they are always interesting cases as well. So.
Yeah, and then we were chatting previously because we sat in our Alton Summit office recording this, and you just informed me there's a climbing centre down the road.
There is.
You do a little bit of climbing in your spare time.
Yeah, a little bit. Not as I said, I had an injury which has stopped me doing that for quite a while. But yeah, the Boulder UK around the corner is a climbing centre. It does bouldering, which is always good to go to. So you can nip there in your lunchtime and have a little climb around if you feel like it. But martial arts have been my main history in sports. That's what I've spent all my life doing, really. So that's my kind of main area of interest. But a bit of climbing and bit of football, like watching the rugby. I don't play it anymore now.
Yeah.
Used to when I was at school, but I suffered from not being 6'8" or 20 stone. It's all right being one or the other, but
I was going to say, which one would you rather be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, either of them would have let me carry on, but I was neither. So unfortunately, that's where my rugby career stopped. But so I'm it's all right. I'm satisfied with watching the Six Nations.
You watch, well, yeah, well, it's always exciting, and then dealing with claims that might arise out of rugby. Have you had any rugby-related claims?
Had lots of rugby-related claims. Obviously, there's a lot of injuries in rugby. More football, actually. I don't know whether that says something about the difference between rugby and football. Maybe you just expect to get injured in rugby, perhaps a bit more, which is fair enough. But yeah, and obviously there's a lot in the press, so there has been in recent years about all the concussion. I suppose advancements in medical science and the links that have been made. All this, but obviously it's been very well documented. So all of that is happening kind of in the background at the moment, and there's a lot of governmental interest in that.
There will be, because I know there's been bits and bobs about stopping children heading footballs and things like that, about the risk of dementia or concussion later in life. Yeah,
exactly. And it's a really kind of emotive topic, because it's one of those that really gets the kind of the public either frustrated or angry, or either way really, depending which camp you sit in. Because on the one hand, well, should we be exposing our kids to the risk of serious injury in the future? Should we be pushing people to be having shorter lives, or more difficult lives later in life, and all those kind of different things? But then at the same time, we still need to retain a freedom of choice, and without sports and all the benefits that sports provide, then the life would be far less enjoyable.
Oh yeah.
And you can't wrap people in cotton wool. In the end, people will always expose themselves to danger, and as long as you've got to do it in a way that that benefits society in the best way. So it's a really kind of difficult subject, that really. It's
a difficult balance, isn't it? And then you've got obviously extreme sports where people just push themselves to the absolute limit and are dangling off mountains and
exactly. I mean, some things you see Red Bull do on the jumping off the edge of cliffs on bicycles with parachutes on and all sorts of stuff.
Not to be advised at home, anyone.
No, definitely. Won't find me doing that anytime soon.
David can do your claim, but no. But I watched a film recently about free diving as well.
Oh right, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But people, they came up literally almost half dead at the end of it.
They have to slow their heart rate down.
Yeah.
And they're breathing down to the point of almost like comatose unconsciousness, so they can get down enough on a rope, and then try and get back up before they die, which is the most ludicrous thing you could possibly imagine.
We were watching this film, and I thought, this is just suicidal, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
I know.
But I mean, the amount of consent forms I imagine they have to sign.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I know. I'd imagine it's quite an easy claim to defend, though.
Yeah, you willingly went down there.
Think you did expose yourself to a risk here, didn't you, when you went down? But I know it's it's amazing what people do. But that just shows you in itself. People want to do these things because they want to push the limits of human endeavour. They want excitement. All this kind of thing. It's not. There's nothing human about staying at home and being safe all the time. That isn't the world that anybody wants to live in. What's that phrase the Chinese say? It's better to live a day as a tiger than a month as a worm. In the end,
I've not heard that one, but I like it.
I might have completely misphrased that. Yeah, put it on a t-shirt. I might have made it up. Perhaps there's however many Chinese people now shaking their heads, going, you know nothing at all about what we say. So apologies, no offence to anybody, but the point is, you need a fulfilling life, don't you?
You do. I suppose it's with all the claims we deal with across the insurance department. It's about balancing risk, isn't it?
Yeah,
and making sure risk is managed appropriately.
Yeah.
Which is then what you're there for.
One thing we've seen increasingly is cases surrounding obstacle course races, for example. So things like you get your Tough Mudder and your Spartan races and all those kind of other ones. They're the big ones, but there's lots of other ones. And only because they didn't really exist properly in any big form, maybe, I don't know, even 10-15 years ago, So as time's gone on, we've seen more and more of those happening, but they're by very definition, they're meant to be a little bit extreme. So some of them, I can't remember if it's the Tough Mudder one, involves crawling on the floor through mud with dangling wires of electricity over the top.
I've seen that.
So it shocks you as you go through. So I mean, obviously, it's not dangerous in terms of obviously nobody is like shocked to death by going through it. But at the same time, it's not comfortable. It's not nice, and you're facing cold or heat or exposure and exhaustion. And you're jumping off towers and landing on things and what have you. So there's a huge amount of risk there. But people love doing them.
Yeah.
And people want to do them.
And they're consenting to do them. And as long as it's set up safely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the difference is what we're dealing with is like, nobody wants these things to stop, but what we want, or the old days gone, where you've got the cowboys just thinking, oh, I could make some money off this, and I'll just knock this together, and I'll do things like that. It's properly, thoroughly, using the right experts, properly risk assessed, involving local authorities and whatever else needs to be involved. And as long as they're done properly, they're a brilliant day out for people, and a real sense of achievement when they've done it. He says, having never done one, although I am actually planning on doing one. I was planning on doing one last year, but then I injured myself. But my plan is still to do one this year.
Well, I mean, after the press up challenge recently, you should be in fine fitness for this.
And I've done that now. That's it. Press ups are absolutely done.
How many press ups did you end up doing in the end?
Well, I was meant to be doing 3,000, so I was meant to be doing 100 a day for the whole of November, which I did. But I don't know whether when you've been doing exercise, you get to a certain point, you think, oh, where am I up to now?
Yeah.
So I always thought, I don't want to go under, so I'll just do a couple more. So it might be more than 3,000, but in the end, that's what I was on.
Yeah, so just for a bit of background for people, David did a challenge for our charity, the Forbes Foundation, and you tried to do, well, you smashed it, 3,000 press-ups in a month, and raised lots of money for them. And then also at the Christmas party, you were also made to have a press-up challenge by our managing partner.
We had to have 2 press-up challenges,
which was nothing to do with me,
no,
even though I was hosting the quiz. Nothing to do with me.
Although unfortunately my competitive nature kicked in, and we had the first press-up challenge, which I lost.
I remember.
But then there was a judicial inquiry about whether it was done properly, and I tried to hide my distaste at the fact that I'd lost.
I don't think you hid it that
No,
way.
I thought I'd done it right, actually. So then we had a second round, which I also lost. And then by that time, people had lost interest. And, nobody
people had gone to the bar.
Nobody was up for a third round apart from me. I'd have gone all night until I won. That's just who I am. But I had to. No, I was the better man. Won / cheated.
But there's no video evidence of that. But you're fit and ready to go on the injuries.
I'm ready to. Yeah. I'm almost over my injury now. So you never know. You might see me on one of those obstacle course races coming soon. Oh, I'm going to have to start running. I'm not a runner.
Are you not fancying that?
No, running's very tiring, and I don't particularly like getting tired. So
no.
So I don't mind scrambling over things, jumping off things or whatever. Done a couple of skydives.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so anything like that, absolutely fine. But if it involves running, getting sweaty, getting tired, heart beating, on the floor, gasping for breath, not like.
Well, when I was younger, I was like if I was chasing a ball, I'd be fine with running. So hockey, football, anything like that, absolutely loved.
I thought you mean you were like the family dog, where they were
chasing ball, they just sent me off after it.
No, any sport involved.
But any sport involved that. But then as I've got a little bit older, I do quite like running because I think it's easy to get better at. So you can set yourself a challenge, and then you kind of go, oh, I can beat that if I just keep practicing.
So you feel like competing with yourself.
I do. I'm a bit of a target-based person, really.
Yeah. How long did it take for you to actually get all right at running? Because I was running once and I got overtaken by somebody who was walking quickly. I was towards the end of my run, in fairness, but at that point I just thought it's just too much.
Well, I think it's couched 5k is a really good thing.
Right. Okay.
But I passed one of our other partners in the gym, one of our employment partners that I won't name, who was doing couched 5k. He was on the treadmill and just like, don't talk to me for 6 minutes. Oh, what's going on for 6 minutes? And it turned out it was couched 5k. But that's a really good way of doing it, because then you get into it, and then I try and get up to running, because I periodically fall in love with running, do it loads, then have a break, but then you lose it really quickly, and then you have to build it back up again. And then just try and get quicker all the time. But I've done a half marathon, that was alright. I plodded that.
Well, but just actually being able to do it is good, isn't it? I mean, the most I've ever run is probably 5k. I've never been in an actual race, but myself running was about 5k. And I did it, but I can't imagine running. What is it, 13 points? 13 points.
Oh, it took ages. It really took it. It's well over 2.5 hours. But at the end, I was just. I don't think I'm even moving. I think my legs are just kind of static. But I think that was more. I like to set a challenge and then kind of go for it. But
I think you have to have that. If you don't have that, though, then there's no motivation, is there, to do it? Because it's very difficult to make yourself carry on running for 2.5 hours when you could be sat on the sofa eating a packet of crisps.
Exactly.
Like I would be doing. So to do that, you need to have something driving you, don't you?
Have you ever had any claims from any runners or anything? No. Well, I suppose it's an individual sport, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So it's not really the ones where we, especially with organised racing, we've had most from cycling, as you'd imagine. Because even when it's organised, it tends to be a road racing, and people are by definition going flat out, and you've got cornering and bunched up cyclists and all sorts of different things. So we've had a lot of cases through cycling, but yeah, none that I can think of for running. Actually, there's not. I think there'll be difficult circumstances for that to be to give rise to a claim. Really, I can't think of when it would. But yeah, no, we haven't that. But almost every other sport we've had them in. Yeah. But it's amazing what sports people can injure themselves in. I would imagine tiddlywinks is a dangerous sport. We'll get one in your eye.
Yeah. But yeah, imagine it. Yeah, cycling would be pretty bad because when you see them on Tour de France and they have the pile-ups and stuff.
Yeah, I try and do, because I don't like running. Cycling is something that I've tried to get into, and I do enjoy that more. But even that, when I'm going downhill and I've got tiny little wheels and you're on your rate, and it's just terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
Not for me.
No, I don't think it's for me either.
I keep threatening to cycle into the Manchester office because I only live sort of 3 miles out of town. But then I keep thinking, just see how people drive and think, it's not you, it's other people, isn't it?
Yeah. Every time I go into the Manchester office, I'm nearly hit about 3 times by different people turning the wrong way or doing whatever they're doing. So the thought of being on a bike, absolutely no way. I'm actually only 10 minutes from this office, so I could cycle here every morning if I wanted to, actually. But I probably won't, because there's no radio warmth or coffee pot holder or anything, those kind of things. So probably inherently a bit lazy, and it's difficult to get over that, really. But,
no, it's all good fun, but it sounds really interesting. So every day pretty much varied, and
yeah, it is. It's I mean, that's what I love about the job. You know, there's no 2 days are the same, really. You obviously cases go on for a long time, so they can do. So there's some cases that you're dealing with for months, years, even in some of them. But then there's other ones that are over pretty quickly. But all the time you kind of getting new cases in, and it's kind of there's always a bit of excitement about what's this one going to be about.
Yeah.
And it's very unusual to get something that duplicates something else. So even in all this, however many years I've been doing it now, I can't think of 2 cases that were almost the same. You get similar things, similar injuries and similar types of things happening, but they're all unique in their own way, you know. And that's keeps you on your toes.
Excellent. Well, that's been really interesting, and it's you get probably more invites to dinner parties talking about sports law than I do about industrial diseases, I would imagine.
So it might bring the room
as much as I love it.
But
no, it's been really interesting talking to you, David. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, that's all right. Thank you for inviting me.
Cheers.
It's an honour to be here.
Thank you.